I think technology will get there likely with an AI approach. And then the question is, of course, how do you train an AI approach in the 3D world? Create any type of visual, but not, let's say, in a traditional photo studio anymore, not by sending teams around the world to get the perfect snapshot of a given adidas shoe on the beach in Brazil, but you do it basically all virtually. My biggest fear was, of course, these assets already exist. Why don't companies just take these assets and put it out there for e-commerce? The answer is the quality is just not there. The people that will buy and shop for these items, they want to see also in the 3D a level of reality that is similar to a classical photo.
Today, I'm sitting with Franz, a dear friend. We met a bit over a year ago, potentially. And he's a fellow founder on the fashion tech space, now building an amazing company that has an amazing product on the 3D scanning area in the world, if I can call it like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is an absolute pleasure to be sitting down here with you, having another chat. And so thank you for joining me. Tell us in your own words, what do you do? What's your journey? And what are you up to now?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for having me. First of all, always a pleasure speaking to you. Covision Lab was started 2019 in the very north of Italy, in the Dolomites, in a little town called Brixen. And it's a consortium of industrial and technology companies who are behind it. We're focusing on research and development in computer vision and machine learning applied to various industry cases or use cases coming from the industry, but also with an entrepreneurial drive. So we launch products ourselves in the market. And I think one of the products that we're going to talk about today is Covision Media, which is a 3D scanner, mostly finding application in the fashion space right now. But we're deeply rooted, let's say, in research in this exciting field. Computer vision, machine learning, that the exciting part is that, okay, the research itself, of course, is exciting, but that you can just take it and apply it to various pain points and immediately get, let's say, interesting results. Then to industrialize it and to make it feasible at scale, that's the entrepreneurial effort. And one thing I wanted to mention as well is this, I talked about the root in the research side. We also founded an institute of computer vision and machine learning, focusing from, of course, generative AI, deep learning, but let's say video understanding, anomaly detection and stuff like this at the University of Bolzano. So if anybody is interested in applying to very interesting PhD positions where, for instance, companies like NVIDIA finance some PhDs, of course, we're always open for and hungry for talent.
Good. That's exciting. And I think it's fascinating how you are merging the research angle with the entrepreneurial angle and in the products that you're pushing out. And I think it might come back to your own personal journey as an entrepreneur. So why don't you take us back a little bit to those times when you started two companies. Can you tell us how was it? What were they about? And what did you learn from those experiences?
Yeah, so basically this was the time when after my studies in Europe, and by the way, I don't have a engineering computer science background. I have say, did management studies and was a bit in consulting, but always the curiosity and drive to explore the entrepreneurial roads. And I was in San Francisco working for a company that was focusing on level 4, level 5 of automation in the self-driving car space. They had a computer vision angle. I had many friends in that space as well. And so at some point after, I left that company, which was later on acquired by Samsung, but, doesn't matter. I was already out. I started a company called Acre, and with a friend of mine, we basically wanted to do Amazon Go checkout for mom and pop shops in San Francisco.
Before Amazon Go? Or was it happening?
It was, I think Amazon Go started a bit earlier.
Okay.
We took inspiration from it, of course, but it wasn't done outside, let's say, Amazon. It was not really an application that happened in the market or yet. There were some stores out there who now started to feature lots of cameras and kind of automatic checkout. But we wanted to retrofit it to, let's say, the long tail, where we thought we could easily get early traction. So we had about 10 stores in San Francisco. We were taking the video feeds from the security cameras.
Okay.
It was exciting. It was kind of a really early start. We had some good, angels helping us out here and there, and just a good thing going with my co-founder. At the same time, however, we realized there was a technological gap. So if you go into an Amazon Go store right now, I don't know if you've ever been, but it's basically hundreds of cameras and different sensors. The store is very uniform, meaning that they know exactly which products go where, so that all this is possible. And we basically had not many cameras because we took the ones that were pre-installed, and the stores were just a mess basically. And so it was very tough. We required lots of data. We did some training. As with everything in AI, you get very quickly to a wow kind of demo. And this was now, I think, 5 years ago. So back then the craze was not like it is now. Not such a momentum, and also some of the models were not, let's say, that you could take off the shelf. They were not as evolved, so you basically had to do it yourself, and there was a limit there in what we were able to do. So we didn't find product market fit fast enough. We got discouraged. Then we, you mentioned we started another company, but basically we shifted the company completely, did something completely else with something that was called common interest, but it was we were running out of money basically, and we were just realizing that it didn't work.
Okay,
and
but it was the same kind of like a similar concept.
It was not that. So we tried then to go to something completely different, building communities that could be incentivized, and basically employee-owned companies. That's the direction that we wanted to go, which I think is a very valid point. But again, it was tough, and at some point we just had to stop, right? So we hit that wall continuously, and although we had a great setup, the co-founder and I, it didn't make sense to continue. And at that point, then I was faced basically at the crossroads. Do I stay in San Francisco? Do I go back? And then I decided I want to go back to Europe, and looked at various opportunities. And actually what was already there in the north of Italy, I didn't know, for instance, they had a very strong base in computer vision and machine learning. For instance, two of the founding companies of this consortium that we then started, one is called Durst. It's a group, Durst Group. Right now they make large printers, digital printers. They print on everything from paper to textile to I don't know, metals, ceramics. I mean, you would say old kind of industry and old technology, but if you actually look at it and walk through their customer experience center, when I did so at the first time, I was just amazed how much technology is in there. And they're one of the first companies that actually made photo cameras in Europe back in the day, right? And then they completely moved away from that, managed to set up a completely different business. And there was another company called Microtech, who is actually a pioneer in quality control based on images for the wood and the food industry. So I didn't know all this, but of course I dig deeper. I knew the entrepreneurs, I knew the founders of these companies, and I saw a little bit of opportunity there, that there was already a base to work with in terms of talent and also investor support. And the biggest challenge was, okay, am I able to build a team in the periphery of the mountains, not even close to, let's say, a hub like Berlin, Milan, Munich, where you have so much talent just coming out of universities and you could grab them and build something exciting. So the challenge was, can we be exciting enough to attract top-notch talent? Because as everything you do, you need to have top-notch talent in order to compete Europe-wide and even globally. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where you grew up, right?
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
And what is the stage now? Is it a hub? Is it, and how did it start? You mentioned that there was a consortium that it is what's behind Covision Lab.
Yeah, so Covision Lab is the consortium. Basically, it's a legal form. You can have a limited liability company as a consortium. Like you have consortiums that, you know, other industries might be the food industry. You have consortiums kind of come together. It's a similar type of setup. So
interesting.
You basically have 7 different companies. They came together, say, hey, let's break down the walls of R&D. Let's kind of collaborate. We know computer vision machine learning is going to be super important for us if we want to be continue to have our competitive advantage in the market. And they were from various industry. Of course, this helped because they were not competing with each other. And I think it's a brilliant open innovation effort. Of course, now I can say this. In the beginning was tough, especially to break down some of the walls on the R&D side. Kind of not invented here syndrome was present. And the most important thing was that we had kind of management and investor buy-in from the top, that we're pushing that into their own companies. So one aspect is that we collaborate with these with the founding companies and with other companies out there as well. And by doing so, we find pain points that might actually lead them to products that we launch, because we get early access to data that is pretty unique in a B2B setting, right? So, I mean, you're a founder as well. In the AI space, it's all about, okay, what is kind of the ground data, the reliable data that you can actually train and build on. And for many pain points, that is not even there, especially in legacy industries. And so this is what we did in the first years. We had a brilliant team.
But I gotta ask also, who started this? Because it is a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to say, let's open this up.
Yeah, no, the idea was there already between, let's say, the owners of these companies, and I think they were just looking for the right person to then build this from scratch. And so, of course, in the first months, I was there on my own.
Yeah.
And then step by step, we managed to get the right people on board. And I think a key factor was actually our link to the local university, where we started or had started a professorship that then built out a whole team of researchers. So we're seeding talent locally. We're seeding research, of course, in our niches. We cannot come in and say, hey, we want to be out there dominating computer vision machine. That's too broad. So we had to focus on certain applications, certain niches. That was one aspect. And the other one was that with some products that we then launched right away, we found early success in the market. So this was giving us revenues, confirmation, and so on. The overarching other factor was that we have a brilliant scientific committee that we started in the beginning. They had already built successful labs in their own regard. So Pietro Perona, professor from Caltech, who's also part-time working for, let's say, doing a partnership with Amazon, helping build their vision department. He was instrumental, gave us a lot of guidance, a lot of contacts that we could learn from. And it signaled to researchers that joined us and developers that joined us, there's quest for excellence. Like, we're not playing around. The top people are involved, even though we are in some part in between the mountains. Something exciting is happening there, and I think especially the people that join us, they're there for the technology itself, for the curiosity of what can be done. It's often the case that people go into the periphery because of the it's nice, it's nature, and so on. Of course, those are side benefits, but nobody comes to work for us because the weather is great and you can go skiing on the weekend. That doesn't really matter. It's really about what you're working on day by day that gets people excited.
That's what you need to create a hub, because if the hub was at least not at the level of the other major cities there, that level of wanting to be challenged and wanting to stay ahead, that's you need it. But it's also, I imagine, how do you create? Do you create it, or do you bring it with the people that you hire and that you bring into the team? That sense of, I want to innovate, I want to work hard, I want to be ahead, I want to challenge everything.
That was the start. Like, we wouldn't even have, or I wouldn't have gotten started even if that was not the aspiration, at least. Quest for excellence in the niches that we are in, producing world-class research, producing world-class products. That was the start for everything.
And how do you maintain that as the years go by and your team grows bigger? What are your strategies?
You have to surround yourself with the best that have also this ambition. I think it's as simple as that, right? The first hires, then the first team members are the most important ones. I mean, everybody, know this, other entrepreneurs know this as well, but you really cannot make any discounts there. So the first, let's say now we are 15, 16 people. I mean, I would say we have built the basis in the first 3 years. Now to go into the next phase of the lab and the next phase of our products that we have in the market. But that core team is everything, and also keeping it. The challenge, having a lab that is a consortium, is of course the best people. Yes, they come for the work that they can do and the research that they can apply to real world data. For the other team members, yes, but they also know that they are good. So they know that there's other places that can offer exciting roles as well. And so the fact that the consortium itself, for instance, doesn't have yet employee participation and so on, that is a bit tricky there.
Right.
We're trying to solve this. Of course, we're not perfect either. We're learning as we go, and we shifted our own business model in the first 6-7 months often as well. So it was not like, oh, open innovation, this is great, let's do it.
Yeah.
Everything was happy from the first days. I think it was hard work to steer this in the right direction.
Yeah.
And luckily, the people who were behind it, the investors, the companies, they were very open-minded and patient and flexible. And I think that was then the key to success ultimately.
Okay. No, and I think you're also doing a great job. I love the content that you're putting out, and also being on top of what's happening and how does that relate to the work you're doing. You're setting the standard for your team and for your company that you're a global player, and your clients, you're working with people, if I'm not mistaken, like Adidas is one of your major clients. That's another ball game, right? So I think that sets the tone as well for the team. But I find the whole concept beautiful, really, because the dream for a founder, for an entrepreneur, is to find someone to come to you and say, these are my problems, solve them for me.
Yeah.
And that sounds like what the machine that you're creating. Does it happen like that? Is it, or what? How does it work?
It's absolutely like that. There's problems that they bring, but also ideas that they bring that might not have necessarily anything to do with their problems. But the first thing that we need to get right is to solve actual process and product related pain points, or let's say opportunities for the founding companies. And that's what we did. So for instance, Durst launched a product that was called Hawkeye, inspired of course from the name in the tennis game that kind of checks if the ball was in, was out. What they do is they automatically check the quality while printing. So we installed cameras that now can be installed in any kind of printer that they produce. A very shallow deep learning model that learns as the printing machine is printing. And sometimes some nozzles. So each printer, the exciting side story, right, has nothing to do with the fashion world. But basically maybe it has something to do if you print on textiles and clothing.
Yes.
Let's just say that is the angle. But basically you have, I think, 200,000 different nozzles where ink is coming out. Right?
Okay.
200,000. And sometimes they can just get clogged. Right. And so what do you have? You have a white line while you print. Nobody wants to see a white line, but you can compensate with the nozzles on the side.
Okay.
However, you need to have in real time. So they print, I don't know, with 5 meters per second. So it's super fast. So you need to have a camera who is able to go with that speed, a model that is able to analyze as you print. So you need to have, of course, the GPUs in place as well in these machines. And so we found a way that basically the nozzles on the side are compensating while printing. And so you have a closed loop system, which is a real innovation in this space, and hopefully can give our partner, our founding company, an edge in the market as well. And so this was exciting to see, and this was certainly demonstrating this right away and creating the momentum made everybody, of course, believe that, yes, we did the right thing, this open innovation concept that can work. And then on top of it, as you mentioned before, with Covision Media, one of our products, we're working with customers like Adidas, Inditex, Zara, with Meta is one of our other customers. So lots of stuff happening there. And as you mentioned before, like, you need to be out there and really see, especially what applies of this exciting AI space, let's call it generally AI space, to really what you're trying to solve. And for instance, we go out there and doing a sale of one of our 3D scanning machines. Like, yes, it's intriguing that some parts of our pipeline are state of the art in AI, but that doesn't sell the product. The product sells because it solves real world problems, gives a lot of advantages, and basically customers can derive any kind of visual that they want from a 3D asset, right? That is of highest quality.
That is exactly one of the challenges of AI. How do we go beyond research and applying it into a real world problem? That's why I find, the setup that you have so interesting and so fascinating. You have Covision Media now. How did that come along? And is it the product that you're focusing the most right now? And also, to add another question on top, do you have a pipeline of products? Do you create it and you hand it over? Do you keep them? How does that work?
Yeah, maybe I answer the first question, and then second, of course, is top of my mind. We're still a small team, so there's not like in the first 3 years we built the lab, we built the institute at the local university, And with 15 people, we also launched 10 products who are successful in the market. It's not like that, but I think we focused and we were really sensitive about what could work, and we were not afraid to immediately go out there to talk to hundreds of potential, let's say, partners or customers. And as soon as we realized there was something there, we went for it. There's also another product that we have is Covision Quality, which is basically visual inspection for the manufacturing industry, let's say metal, glass, plastic manufacturing industry, and with unsupervised machine learning. Something else, we immediately pushed it out there. It's a tougher space for various technological reasons, but it's still out there and doing okay. So how did Covision Media come about? The interesting fact is that let's say one of our founding companies, they kind of had that idea already. They were trying it out in New York way too early for their time. Didn't work. It was kind of put in the drawer.
Maybe explain what the idea is. Because
the idea is basically we have a multi-camera system. You can imagine basically 2 by 2 by 2 meters, big heavy machine with 30 cameras, structured light projectors, different lights. It needs to be operated in a blacked out environment. You put an object in that multi-camera machine. Basically, you can imagine it like a dome. Put it in there, press a button, and after 10 minutes of scanning, you have higher quality 3D digital twin, the exact representation of that physical object there. This was, let's say, photogrammetry before. I mean, was around now for several years, if not decades. Also 3D assets, they have been around for a lot of time. The unique aspect here is that we managed to solve for the reflections of the light from the object, which we measure, which makes the object itself that we produce, so the 3D asset we produce, relightable, of the highest quality, meaning you can put it in any kind of environment, meaning also you can derive from it all the 2D video content that you want, and put it in any kind of context. And that is the real revolution. If you think about the e-commerce industry, that we just basically create any type of visual, but not, let's say, in a traditional photo studio anymore, not by sending around teams around the world to get the perfect snapshot of a given adidas shoe on the beach in Brazil, but you do it basically all virtually. But the basis for this is you have to have the technology advantage, which we created. And here also big shout out, of course, to the team. I mean, I didn't write one line of code, and they were brilliant in that, and they came from that space again there. So Burkhard, for instance, who is the tech lead there, he did this in his PhD, so he was obsessed about 3D scanning. He then put it out there and created it at our company. But he was an absolute expert in Europe on this topic, right? This is the kind of expertise that you need if you really want to put something out that is revolutionary. You need the best of the best. And that was such a case. You can call it luck, but at the end of the day, it worked out. Now the people that are joining us, they have, I don't know, highlight papers at CVPR, right? At the Computer Vision Pattern Recognition conference. So that's the type of talent that we want. It gets attracted by what we do. Of course, the momentum, this as well is the most important thing in a startup, I think. So if you have momentum that we have right now, you need to keep going. And so that's, I think, an exciting part of what we do. Now to your second question, of course, not the whole lab is focusing on this right now. I think half of the lab is focused on that product, because, of course, having then these products out there with customers requires different type of roles. Like you need to make sure that the system runs 24/7. So customer support is important. A bit of marketing, a bit of business development is important as well. So different roles came in that were not necessarily, let's say, the base roles that came from the research department. Do we have more products just in our pipeline? Surely there's some ideas that we will pursue, and I think that's one of the goals of Covision Lab, to always keep going, put new products out there. We have the stability and flexibility that some of them might also not work. We are not a classical incubator in that sense. So we're a bit more, I would say, opportunistic / pragmatic. And I think it also, in the next stage of our company, needs to be structured and organized in a way that it becomes more attractive to maybe build these products inside and then give them also a way out, kind of like a spin-off way of doing it. And so for the next product that will be built, I hope we can find a mechanism that works there. Luckily, it has been done many times before. It just needs to be the right fit for us as well.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. So problems come in, then ideation happens, a solution is found, and that product is maintained by Covision.
Correct.
And it continues to be in the market by Covision. And I guess at the end of the day, the companies own, the companies are in the consortium are the shareholders, so to say, of Covision. But that's the setup of how it works right now with your pipeline of products. We'll get to what happens later in a second, but let's go a little bit deeper into Covision Media. By the way, it's impressive. Every time I go to your website, and people should really go into the website and check it out, because I'm amazed of the quality, and the use case makes absolute sense. And you were saying, I didn't want to interrupt you. It started with one of the companies that was already working on it early on, and then it was handed over to you guys, or you took it up?
Yeah, it's a great question. So basically, it's let's say passion project of one of the companies that founded that, so Covision Labs. So basically, they worked on this product because they saw a market for it. I think they then experimented with that scanner also in New York and so on. It was tough to get there technologically, from a talent perspective, but also just from a technology readiness perspective. Like, we then took this over a few years later, but really it was the idea that we took home, we incorporated it, and we tried to basically revive it, kickstart it from zero. Then we basically had to build it from ground up. I think the idea of having a multi-camera system scanning devices, it's not something new, but of course there was already experience there. There were some cameras there. There was a system there that we took on to kind of develop then into our first prototype. And I think it was a unique situation that we necessarily, when we started Covision Lab, like, we didn't plan for it to be what it became right now. I think it was almost, from my perspective, unthinkable. I thought we rather going to be a company that's offering maybe scanning service and so on, that the machines themselves would sell, and to the customers that actually got now interested and excited about it. I think I didn't even hope for. Now that it turned out, I think it's just a result of great work and testimony of keep going, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had a hypothesis in the beginning. I would say it was a risky one, because of course many companies, and you know this as well very, very well, they design their products already in 3D, whether it's the fashion industry or not. Like, products are designed more and more in 3D. Then you have a CAD model, and that CAD model, you send it to your factory, whether it's furniture or clothing or shoes, and they then create a first prototype. They send it back. It's kind of a back and forth. And then you have the final physical asset, and then you're gonna mass produce it and sell it. And my biggest fear was, of course, these assets already exist. Why don't companies just take these assets and put it out there for e-commerce, to create all imagery from it? And the answer is, the quality is just not there. Like, you need to have, from a end consumer perspective, the people then who buy and shop for these items, shoes, jackets, whatever, they want to see also in the 3D a level of reality that is, let's say, similar to a classical photo, right? And that was never there. And so we cracked that part after 1 year of just intense R&D without having any product out there. As soon as we cracked that, then, however, we knew that we had something special in our hand. The fact that already before we had something out there, we were trying to look for the biggest name in the business, somebody like adidas, was then a good move, because as soon as we were ready to go, we were able to strike up these collaborations. And now I think it's going in the right direction.
That was literally one of the questions that I had. Why are they not taking this designs and transforming them into 3D? And I understand now that it is because the way they are rendered are, for example, the texture doesn't look like the real one, and you are limited into how that 3D rendering would end up looking. Is that correct? That's what you're saying?
Absolutely. So it looks a bit plasticky.
Do you think that it would eventually come to be that, or wouldn't it be more efficient to get those CAD designs to work so that you skip the photo taking process? Do you think that that's something that is happening, or because it sounds to me that would be more efficient than taking the actual photo?
Absolutely. I mean, the answer is absolutely yes. It would be more efficient. It would make absolutely sense, and it's the logical thing that should happen. It's just that the technology is not there and will not be there for the foreseeable future. Now, foreseeable future for me is the next 3 years. I think we're going to be, with what we do, very, very competitive and let's say hand-designed items, CAD models that evolve and can turn into something that is actually marketable and can go on a product detail page on e-commerce, and you can actually use them to derive the 2Ds, the videos from it and so on. I think eventually technology, I would say, will get there.
Yeah.
I think technology will get there likely with an AI approach. And then the question is, of course, how do you train an AI approach in the 3D world? There's not huge 3D high quality data sets of, shoes out there. Again, we will have the advantage because we are building that data set. So I think we are then in the future very well positioned to also take advantage of that opportunity. Until then, we of course try to reap the economic opportunity.
No, it makes sense. And you're right. I mean, if someone is going to be creating that data set, it's probably going to be you guys that are doing this continuously. What type of products are you scanning? I've seen the example of shoes. What else are you, and what are your clients?
Yeah, so basically right now with the first version of the scanner we put out there, so this is almost exactly 1 year ago. So we introduced it in Munich at the ISPO fair because we sensed that likely the first application that is also paying the bills will be scanning of shoes and rigid items. So we have built kind of a bulletproof, very solid scanner in terms of the way we're doing the scan. So you have to scan in 3 poses. So one is kind of standing up, and then you move the object to the left, the object to the right. Our AI automatically merges these poses together, and the end customer will never see an intermediate result. You only will see the end result. Now, of course, we're already working on, and actually in May, June 2024, we'll release the second scanner that will be able to do also non-rigid items. So this goes into bags, clothing, and I think that will unlock many more opportunities on top of what we're doing right now. Right now, it's not just shoes. So with some of the customers, we scan toys, tools, household items, food even. So the scanner really doesn't care what kind of object is in there, as long as it fits the scanning volume. So right now, if the current scanner we have, the scanning volume is 50 times 50 times 50 centimeters, for instance. Of course, that needs to be respected. Yeah. But also was never the goal to build something, the first go that can do everything. So it was really, really tailored to a niche.
Yeah, of course.
Which then I think is the standard way of how a startup should do things, right?
Absolutely. What happens now? Talking about the business model itself of the scan. It sounds as if having a 3D model like Adidas, having the shoes that you can play around with, and it's a competitive advantage for them. It sets them apart from other manufacturers. Is that a problem for you as a company? Are you entering into these contracts without the possibility to go in for their competitors or their shoemakers?
Not at all. So the question, if I get it right, is by working with some of these customers, they want exclusivity?
Yeah, exclusivity.
Okay.
That's the word.
Okay, sorry. No, absolutely not. So first of all, big shout out to Adidas. They're such an innovator in the space, and we now talk to hundreds of companies. And we know I'm not saying we got lucky in the space, because of course we searched for it and we were found by their so the studio that basically does all the photos and scanning for them is called NUREG, based out of Nuremberg. Big friends of ours as well, and they had the foresight to approach us, and then of course make it happen with Adidas. So to go back to the point on exclusivity, no, we never even started with the thought of doing so, and we would never accept that. It doesn't make sense. Also, I think from a customer perspective, so from a B2B customer, in that case, Adidas perspective, because at the end of the day, they want us to become better over time. And how do you get better? Of course, if you expose yourself to many more use cases. So for instance, in working with Meta, we have other use cases, and we immediately saw the limitations of the scanner on very, let's say, symmetric objects, where our registration of like the algorithm for registration in the beginning messed up some parts, right? And so we had to absolutely be laser focused on solving that issue, which of course then benefited also the scanning of shoes or rigid items that we scan for Adidas. So I think it's a virtuous cycle that also the companies are interested in keeping alive. Now, to the business model itself, I think so. We sell the scanners or we rent them out. So one scanner costs 300,000 euros, or a monthly fee, and then on top of it, each scan has a price.
Okay.
And
that's interesting. So it's not that they send you the products and then you are processing products. You ship the scanner to them.
Absolutely.
And they take care of it.
Because the thing is, we don't want to be disrupting an already existing process that works like a charm, and has been working like a charm for many years already, meaning the classical photo video creation process. All these companies, they have massive studios doing incredible things, by the way, especially, yes, we are disruptive to the 2D photo creation process, and who knows, maybe in 3-4 years there will only be 3D scans, and then you derive all imagery from it, just because scans are so good. Why do something twice when you can do it once really well and then have it basically there forever? Because you can, with a high quality 3D asset, maybe in 2 years from now, the latest, I don't know, I'm saying now, Samba shoes, you have kind of evergreens, but the lighting setups of the customer might change, of our customer, but the preferences of the end customer might change on how this product is being presented. You can take just that high quality scan again and create new content from it without having to set up a new video photo shoot again. So I think the direction this is going is clear. And I think that's the exciting part. But of course, that needs to be sensed as well from a entrepreneurial perspective, and what is the customer willing to accept in terms of business model as well.
No, that's super smart, and I think the more you can help the client to not change their processes, the better, and the easier it is for you to stay there. So that's really smart. I also read, when looking at the product, you're using nerves mostly to basically create this 3D model that it is interactive. What's your take on the future of that technology now, looking at Gen AI? Is that something that the team is looking into? How can they intersect? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. So first of all, we use nerves we use nerves in our software pipeline, and just started to introduce them. So right now there's a process going on. So we, of course, based on classical computer vision, machine learning in the beginning. Of course, there were some parts that already did AI, but not something like nerve, or we're also looking at Gaussian splatting and so on. But we want to use the properties of these kind of new models, specifically tailored to our software pipeline, which of course we have so much information that the whole system is so controlled, and we know every light source like to an accuracy of, I think, 0.1 millimeters. That is the level of accuracy and control we have over machine, which of course is very beneficial in terms of ground truth for these kind of models. So we're leveraging them to especially combat the problems that we have on or let's say the opportunities for improvement that we have on transparencies and mirror-like reflections. So there's still post-production work that needs to be done right now. Let's say you scan a crazy shoe with an air sole that is transparent. That is something that you would need to then fix in post-production. So there's still the classical, let's say, effort of you create the asset, and then of course before it goes out, it needs to be checked once, and you need to maybe modify it. But we are leveraging now increasingly nerves and other techniques to fight that, right? So that's one part. Now, to your second part of the question, when you mentioned generative AI, and of course it's in vogue right now to speak about it. I think Gen AI is first of all very exciting. Lots of companies are thinking about how they can incorporate it in their product, startups as well as legacy companies. You, of course, in a B2B setting, need to always make sure that the end result is up to the standards of that industry. Now we're operating in the fashion industry, whether it's high-end fashion or let's say sports performance products. These are the products are the company, right? And so these are high value items. A sneaker sells for, I don't know, 150, 200 euros. We don't even talk about luxury bags and so on from some of maybe, let's say, the most important Italian and French fashion brands and so on. So it really matters the last 5%. Like in general, and AI is great at getting to the 80, 90% in a really quick way. And from a technology perspective, in a wow way, right? And really fast. And it shows the potential. Now, the last 5-10%, of course, that makes the whole difference. Is the last 5-10% super expensive, super human intensive labor? yes or not, and how far can we get with generative AI? So what we are thinking is, of course, from a 3D perspective, generative AI still has some way to go, and still actually is lacking the high quality data sets that we were referring to before in order to even build these models, right? So you look at text, what OpenAI has done with ChatGPT. They crawled basically all the text, everything in the internet of the world. Okay, exciting, but that was laid out there. There was no bias, let's say, in that information. Or is this, let's say, of course, there's high quality literature and maybe lower quality literature, but the algorithm doesn't quit. It's basically text that it sticks together, and the sentences make sense somehow, right? Okay, that was then the training material for what was a truly stunning outcome. The same is true for images, right? You look at apps like Midjourney. They had again lots, billions of images already ready, and were able to then train algorithms. Of course, the expertise within the algorithm, and then also to make it accessible to consumers like us in a very easy way. I think if you then go one step further, so we talked about text, we talk about images, now we talk about 3Ds, right? That data set, hundreds of millions of high quality 3Ds don't exist, right? And so we are actually contributing to build these data sets. And so the applications will only be able to be built, I think, in the I would say 18, 24 months. I think that will be the time horizon where first interesting products, again, I'm talking about B2B applications, will emerge. If you look at what is being done by companies like Luma AI and so on, it's truly incredible what they're able to do, nerfing and Gaussian splatting, various things. Also what the big tech companies put out there, Google and Meta, of course, is very exciting. But there's still lots to do in 3D.
Yeah, and I think the distinction you make between a product for a company being in B2B is something that we sometimes tend to forget. The company needs to control the quality, the consistency. This is something that matters. And now Gen AI, that's one of the toughest things. And anyone who has been playing with Midjourney trying to create the same character will know what that means. Not being able to reproduce something as you want it exactly to be, but just getting close to something that looks good. It will only take you to that extent of doing something cool and exciting, but not to produce potentially something that has to be controlled in terms of content, in terms of so that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And this is what you're saying right now is linked to scalability, right? I mean, of course, you can be an agency and doing incredible work with these tools that we just discussed, and there will be early on also tools on the 3D side you can do exciting stuff with. But it's still a lot of human involvement, and perhaps content is being created on a one-off basis. If you think about what the goal is then of a startup company in a B2B context, also is to look for aspects that can be scalable, right? Or that scalability in the application. And so I think that is where Gen AI in some cases from a B2B context has to still grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of company goals growing up, where is Covision Media or Lab going now? It seems to me that you have a very cool and specific product, right? Let's digitize assets and products. What's happening next to that, and what are your next steps?
Yeah, so I think surely Covision Lab as a whole, what we achieved in the R&D hub, we built a solid basis. I think that is important. We have great access to talent. We are fostering talent ourselves. So this is the basis for everything. And I think out of Covision Lab itself, in the next years and decade, lots of great new products and innovations can come from it. Who knows, in the future also companies. So the goal then for Covision Media, which is part of Covision Lab, is just to continue to improve, satisfy more and more customers, be obsessed about their problems. So the privilege that we have in working with companies like the customers I mentioned before is, yes, they know that we're a startup. Yes, we're delivering already value, but it's a back and forth, and they lay open their pain points, their problems to us that we can further improve while leveraging all of the info that we create and the data we create with state-of-the-art in AI. And I think that's the exciting part. So to see how far we can actually push the technology. And that's, I think, what keeps most of us going at Covision Lab. Just how far can you push state-of-the-art research in actually solving real-world problems, right? So we will just continue to go our way, of course, bring a bit more organizational stability to everything. And then I think we're good.
I'm fascinated about the setup. I will be digging more into consortiums to see, because I mean it is what it makes sense, to get problems from the industry, from the company that is having it. So yeah, it's super interesting. One more question on the structure, on the setup. How do you navigate the complexities of research with the complexities of entrepreneurship and building products that achieve product market fit? I think this is a point that we started. Now you touched it upon. What are the challenges that you have as a team, and how you deal with them?
Yeah. So first of all, research in the sense of, let's define research simply as publishing papers, or let's say the main driver is to do state-of-the-art research by publishing papers, meaning that you act on actually publicly available data, and you compete with other research organizations. Okay, that is entirely done at the university with the team that we helped create, and the professorship that we installed. So they're competing at CVPR and so on, ICCV conferences. So we at Covision Lab, we don't, except for master students and PhDs who spend their time with us that we finance, the majority of the team members, they actually build products from either that research or state-of-the-art research, of course, is being done by others out there. But that's the exciting part about this industry, is that, people lay these golden achievements just out there for you to take. And I think also big credit to the big tech companies out there. I think they open source many, many things that, companies like us can then either take on, modify, test, do whatever we want with it, basically. And I think that's fascinating, actually. I struggle to see many other sectors that have that, right? And on top of it, it's a sector that proves to be very, I think it's the real deal. Like, we're not talking about something that is super hyped here in terms of AI. I think AI is here to stay. Of course, you will always have that hype, and then maybe it goes kind of a bit down and it finds its plateau and slower growth in the years to come. Okay, that's fine, but it's here to stay. And so that is the balance we're trying to strike. So in Covision Lab, actually, we take basically essentially code that it comes with these papers and try to apply it to real world data that we have already, that we gather, and then modify it to our needs. So you also have to have the people, of course, with the research background who can dig into the latest AI models and play around with them, right? And so I think that's the key.
What about the let's call it pressures, or the involvement of the consortium, and how do you keep your entrepreneurial process of finding product market fit basically undisturbed, if there is any?
No. I think it's clear what we do. So we have separated teams, actually. So there's, if you look at Covision Quality or Covision Media, the products we have out there, they have teams just dedicated to that. It wouldn't be possible otherwise. And let's say the R&D aspect that we do with our founding companies, but also, frankly, with other companies out there, that has its own work stream and its own pace as well. That can be much more experimental. It can be making many more errors as well. And I think there's not such a, I mean, we always have a quest and drive for success, but they don't need to be working, from the get-go. When you have a product out there, it better works from the get-go. Of course, there's a bit of flexibility and patience always there, but there's not that much wiggle room as for typical R&D, let's say.
Yeah, that makes sense. Franz, we gotta wrap it up, but I want to ask you more on the personal note. What's your personal drive and connection to what you do today, the company that you are leading today, if there is any, and if there is not, what drives you, what motivation to keep on going, especially on this role that you have today? Yeah,
so for sure, I cannot say that I always wanted to, since I was 18, I wanted to start Covision Lab. I think it did naturally evolved. And by the way, blessed are those people who with a young age know already exactly what they want to do, because they just have such a big competitive advantage, I think, if they're able to execute well and they are talented. But I think it's just innate curiosity that pairs very well with this exciting field. It's so much fun working with my brilliant colleagues and team members, and I learn every day from them. So I think that's what keeps us going, what keeps me going, and of course the prospect that we see in some of the things that we do, right? So knowing that what we do is top notch globally. I think that's something to be proud of and exciting. And of course, it's even tougher to stay there and continue to be the best, at least in those niches that we are playing in, right?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I agree also with. I mean, most of us, I dare to say, find our path as we are walking it, you know, and as we're going through it. And really, I mean, the work that you're doing is really inspiring, really cool. Again, everyone should go and check it out. It's impressive every time I go into the website. So really, thank you for sitting down with me and sharing your journey and what you're doing. Is there any final recommendation for people that are interested? Where can they find you? Where can they find the company? You mentioned that you're open for researchers, for research requests. How do they find you?
Yeah, I would just go on LinkedIn, Covision Lab, or look for my name and just send me a message on LinkedIn, and we can chat about it. But also, thank you for having me. Really, really interesting conversation as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.